which we commenced yesterday, our long-term plan for 2024 to 34. I'm going to put an apology for Nathan Waddle for lateness, seconded by Mayor Baker. All those in favour? Those are carried. Oh, did he? Let's rescind that. Yes, I know. Oh, sorry, no, Tracy continues from yesterday. So, no problem. Right, before we start proceedings officially, let's start with a karakia. Thank you very much, Taku. Thank you very much, everybody. So that begins us, beginning with our first submitter, Dr. Alice Miller. Welcome. So you have 5 minutes, and if you push the thing there, the green light will come on. Yep, and we can hear you. 5 minutes. A bell will ring at 4, and if you want to get some questions, or you can carry on to 5. All right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Morena. I'm here to speak for my children and the next generation in general. I worked for many years as a GP, and I now have a master's in public health, and I work researching transport policy. I did that because I'm really worried about the environment and climate change, and also because I care about equity and people. I'm also founder of Climate Cafe Plympton. We had our first meeting last night, and I was the coordinator of the Midwinter Dip last year at Plympton. Firstly, I want to say that we love the library in Patika and the place, space and murals at Cobham Court. We also love the walking paths that connect the streets near to us and the Camborne Walkway, the shared path out to Patunui, and the new cycleway near the Police College. We're looking forward to trying that out. We also 100% support the work to protect the health of our waterways, including water metering, and anything you can do to minimise waste and maximise recycling. I also 100% Ngāti Toa Rangatira having equal decision-making powers within council decisions, because I know that the people understand the land and how to protect it. But the most important thing I want to talk about is transport. I've always felt that the soul of this city has been sucked out by concrete, big box stores, urban sprawl, and cars. It depresses me. And so we only actually come here when we have to. I'm asking, please build the Wīnera to Onopoto shared pathway. Stop allowing sprawling development into greenfield areas which don't have good public transport or cycleways, and instead encourage more infill and more housing density. And please bring back climate mitigation as a priority. I can understand how focus tends to shift back to short-term pressures, but I have to spend lots of time reading about the impacts of climate change. And I can tell you that the urgency and seriousness of this for my children, your children and grandchildren cannot be overstated. We'd like to see more street space given over to safe walking and cycling and more greenery. And when you take out paving, you reduce flooding risk because soil is like a sponge. This can easily and cheaply be done with traffic circulation plans and things like paint and planter boxes. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Shared spaces in cities warmly invite people to stay, creating a sense of community. A good city is like a good party, and people stay longer than people to walk, cycle, scooter, and use buses or trains, given our projected population growth. Cars and parking takes up so much of our public space, and it has long been known that the best cure for traffic congestion is to give people alternative transport options, funding to provide a modern multimodal transport system to support that. Otherwise, traffic jams and pollution in the city spaces will only get worse, and people will less want to come here. We also need to remember that there are lots of people in our communities who cannot drive because they are young, elderly, disabled, or can't afford to do that safely. Auckland Council just published a research report showing overwhelmingly that children understand that transport and health and environment are linked. and 86% of them rated walking, biking, or wheeling as their favourite way to travel, and the majority of them expect to be able to get around without a car in the future. I'd love you to have kids and rangatahi involved with designing the new transport strategy for Porirua. I also know that to achieve Council's vision for a healthy and low-carbon community, that providing cycleways and frequent public transport is going to be one of the best and cheapest ways to get that. There is heaps of research evidence showing great benefit to cost ratio for cycleways, and once they're there, they're much cheaper to maintain than roads. Bikes and feet, unlike cars and trucks, don't cause potholes. I'd really love you to look to cities like New Plymouth, Hastings, Christchurch, Wellington, and overseas to Paris, Barcelona, London, New York, who are really reaping the benefits of modern urban design, which is reshaping city spaces for people, not cars. Look at the before and after photos. It is so inspiring. And when people tend to push back against these changes initially, they are very popular once they've been done. Mayors who do it get re-elected.
Thank you, Alice. Your 5 minutes is up, but I will allow, if there's one quick question, a burning question that anyone has. Aside from Josh. Okay, thank you, Alice. Thank you very much for the points that you raised. Right, that brings us to our second submitter, 283, which is Friends of Taupo Swamp and Catchment Incorporated.
Yes.
Judy McCoy.
Don't forget the
Thank you,
catchment.
Judy. You've got 10 minutes and the bell will ring at 8.
Gosh, this sounds like mastermind.
Ask us some questions.
Morena, thank you for having me here today. I'm representing Friends of Taupo Swamp and Catchment, which is an organisation many of you will be familiar with now because we keep popping up at things like this. Just for those of you who, very quickly, who are not familiar with what we do, we've been working in the Taupo Swamp wetlands since local concerns led to a hui with all the landowners in the catchment of the Taupo Swamp wetlands back in 2018. And there was a groundswell of public interest and support from the community, which led to us setting up our FOSC as a charitable entity. For the last 6 years, we've worked alongside key partners, Greater Wellington, who oversee the wider catchment, based around the key native ecosystem in which we work, and you, Porirua City Council, which owns the 9 hectares, which is central to our restoration work. We don't work in a vacuum. Our strategic and operational plan is aligned with all the relevant GW policies and strategies, each giving heightened protection to the Taupo Swamp wetlands and its arms around the catchment. So where you can imagine that we were very pleased indeed to see that the protection of the harbour and investment in robust water infrastructure is seen as a priority in the Porirua draft long-term plan. In that context, our group would like to comment on 3 issues arising out of that. The first is I'm going to speak to the importance of baseline monitoring of the hydrology of key development sites within the harbour catchment, so that changes in land use take account of natural systems and their associated biodiversity. Lots of long words in there, but don't be frightened by it. The second point I'm going to talk about is who pays for that monitoring site on key development sites. So this is what our members would like to see prioritised in the long-term plan. Back to the baseline monitoring, we'd like to see the insistence on that monitoring of water quality in all new subdivisions where there's any possibility of earthworks impacting on waterways, which may or may not flow into the positive outcomes. One example I'll give you that comes to mind for us is that in the early days of the Plimmerton Farm development, a strong case for such monitoring was made in a 2019 hydrological report. It was a gap report commissioned by the developers and written by James Blythe to help mitigate effects in the future. And he made recommendations accordingly with suggestions for a number of monitoring sites across the farm catchment. Now, to the best of our knowledge, no such monitoring has occurred. In this case, the oversight shared between GW and PCC, and we are aware of that of that conflict and that connected relationship between GW and PCC is not clear. However, in the interests of the long-term plan's stated objective, protection of the harbour, into which all the water from that area flows, it will do no good to be hand-wringing after the fact. We would like to think that Blythe's published report has just one place in the current thinking about the how the stated goals of healthy harbours and robust water infrastructure are achieved. We and others might be able to account for the fact that we now see mature nio trees dying along the northern boundary of the Plympton Dog Park because they are now in half the K&E by our drone providers, and it is very tangible to see that. And you can look at that on our website. It's real and it's happening. By the landowner or the developer, not the ratepayer, before any development starts. This is one tangible in the draft long-term plan. Our final point is made land use, so that environmental protections implicit in each consent sips with people within GW and PCC. However, we know that completely another. We were assured at the Plympton Farm plan change hearings that PCC would be tightening compliance and earthworks monitoring with the intent to prioritise this funding in the long-term plan. And aside to that is one of our staff and the time and effort lost, etc. And we're all living in very fast-moving time. We're volunteers. We won't be fired from our jobs right now and will only increase. To our knowledge, regular connections and conversations between PCC and GW, so information is not necessarily shared, which is on a great note, and I've thought a lot about saying this, but it has to be said. The elephant in the room, of course, planning into the future, made by our group and hundreds of others, which have fed into long-term policy statement-based membership about this. Close to home, is to turn the large flat area north of James Street into a deepened retention lake to potential threats to people and to the environment in the event of a dam breach, which I won't go into. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. We have time for questions. Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Atamaria, kia ora, Judy. Think about the options around a curbside collection service. It was indicated that the submission was the preference to not make any change. Congruity with regards to changes to that program would mean for climate change as part of our climate change response.
There's a limited amount of money available, and that ratepayers are going to be facing. That was the point of our. That was the.
You mentioned earlier in your submission the phrase "climate change is here now,"
Yes.
and I'm just trying to understand why we would take the mean that we would not be playing a fair part as a council in responding to the climate crisis.
Yeah.
Point. I'm not a lawyer, and I take your point, but we have to pick and choose what our.
I don't see anyone else asking any questions. Thank you very much, Judy, for your presentation. That leads us to number 2. So we'll just hold that over and let's move to number. Do it now. So up here. Oh, you can sit there. I don't mind. Wherever you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The bell will ring at 4. You're aware of the thing. If you want questions or whatever, so
I'm going to take it as read. I just want to say congratulations, oddly enough, because it's a pretty... I wasn't actually able to refer to this in my submission because the report just came out last week. But our assets, particularly our infrastructure assets, in context, need a really big shift in how we pay the worldwide laws of urban physics that say that of road, of internet cable and so on and so forth, that can't try and keep desperately backfilling the maintenance and upkeep of the other infrastructure. But financially, we're onto something. We're really onto something. And this report that came out, you've probably seen it. It's a good read. It's a short read. I would highly recommend you get into it. It's publicly available now. There's a picture in there. This is going to be really hard to see. The cost of looking after that per dwelling. And then down here you've got density. Right next to that, who's right next to that? The centre of our beloved city. To gather the funds and own the assets if we hold in the hull of our boat. Why do you think Porirua City Centre is way up here next to Te Horo in terms of local road network costs? Road in our city and almost no people, and it is people who generate value. So I would invite you to think, not just from a cold, hard financial perspective, is basically what planning nerds would call density or intensification. What it means is when you live in it, you can license or access to a car. You can live that rich, full life right throughout your friends. You can stay near the coffee shops that you love because there is enough variation and different. A bloody great place to live. So I would invite you to think about that stuff. I don't know, if you feel like doing an urban economics course, Motu have put out and how we think about our urban form of our towns and cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. Questions, anybody? Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Isabella. Always enjoyed to see you.
16, which I think comes up as like page 20-something on the Adobe. It's a good report. I'd recommend just having a flick through it.
What was the name of the report again?
Infrastructure Costs and Urban Form, a Proof of Concept Model, Sense Partners for Greater Wellington.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That was what I was asking.
Okay, you were going to ask that question as well. We do have a little bit of time, so Councillor Trillin, you wanted to ask a question?
Cool. Thanks very much, and thank you for your submission. I just wanted to pick up on the point that you were talking about, the ratio of...
Get more people living here. More people living here, whatever you can. If it means kind of rolling out a bit of the old red carpet for someone like Ian Castles, then let's just do it. We need the warm bodies, we need the wallets, we need the families. I'm a big fan of Ian's, don't get me wrong, but corporate welfare in such a straitened time is difficult to swallow, right? But we need to get more people living here. And it's awesome to have a much more enabling district plan. Go you guys, excellent. There is a lot of other stuff that needs doing. So if Porirua can get more people living in the centre, also on the supply side of that nasty ratio, detuning some of those roads so that that precious, precious public realm, particularly between the core of the city and our waterfront, can be a place that people who are coming to live in the city can use. So if I'm here with some kids, I can say, hey kids, my 12-year-old's allowed to take my 8-year-old and my 4-year-old. So think about that, how all of that road space is actually serving the city and the awesome new residents that we will hopefully soon have.
Great. Any other questions?
Sorry,
it's not really a question. Council pay. We're open, seriously open, because we've got councillors wanting to live in it.
Absolutely.
Just the final point. I've said hooray to the different proposals in the LTP. We're going to reduce our private car travel. If you look at the emissions footprint of Porirua, it's not the rubbish, guys. It's not the rubbish. And the beauty of doing that is that urban form that reduces people's emissions who live in it also happens to be the urban form that can wash its own face financially and the urban form that is a bloody great place to live. It's remarkable. Thanks
for your erudite presentation, Isabella. Always a pleasure to listen to. I have one last question I'm going to slip in. Where's the 8-lane road?
If you count up the number of lanes that you have to cross between getting from Te Manawa to...
Okay, I get your point. All right, thank you very much.
Kia ora.
Okay, now, almost bang on time again now. So can I ask Jason Carpenter from the Chamber of Commerce? Thanks, both of you. You've got 10 minutes. A bell will ring at 8. Yeah, you can sit in those two. Just make sure you've got So I think there's one green light there, and if you're going to talk, you've got to push the button for the green light there when you want to talk. So yeah, 8 minutes, a bell will ring, and which leaves you another 2 minutes if you want any questions, or you can just carry on. All right, away you go.
Good. My name is Stephen Dyberg. I'm the chairman of the Porirua Chamber of Commerce Advisory Board. I'm here with my colleague from Business Central, Jason Carpenter. By way of introduction, the Chamber of Commerce is a business membership association present here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the strategic case, the aspirational parts that we want to see, and Jason will then kick in and he'll talk more about the technical elements of our feedback. So across all of the feedback in our submission, our main ask is that we believe that the council needs to re-engage with business in a more fundamental way that ensures economic development outcomes are prioritised alongside other outcomes to ensure that Porirua can thrive. Porirua businesses are committed to growth and to succeed, but we believe that there is much more that the council could do to make Porirua attractive, a place for people to live, but also for businesses to invest. We reflect on the last 15 to 20 years, Porirua has had some extraordinary growth and opportunity and challenges. And the Chamber, while being a critical friend of the long-term plan, considers that there is an extraordinary opportunity for the city and its economic development. But opportunity is a passive term that requires action. And we believe that the council needs to create that opportunity and to enable that action. We also understand that while water infrastructure is massive, and it is something that features largely in the long-term plan, and we understand that it has also curtailed some of the other plans and initiatives, but there is still a case for the council to be more aspirational for businesses and to foster better relationships with businesses and to embed hairdressers to large-scale developers and everything in between are vital to the outcomes that you are seeking. However, there is almost no mention of business throughout the long-term plan, and economic development outcomes in the region seem to have been deprioritised compared to others. The business principles and aspirations and interests of the city acknowledge that we have worked with members of your economic development team, and we know that they are aspirational, and we just want to see more support for them, and we want to see that reflected in the long-term plan. Jason.
Thanks, Steve. And just to support what the speaker before us said, that density, that's something we absolutely support, having more people. And I think the thing missing from that presentation, and we do work with Sense Partners quite a lot, and there's some other Wellington-based measurement that we can send through around things like the impact of rates differential on business that we can forward through as well. But one of the big things is that when you're talking about density and having these neighbourhoods with all of these services, the word that no one wants to say at the moment in council is business. The thing that makes them attractive to people is that there's places to work, there's places to eat, there's places to drink, there's mixed-use commercial model. You talk about mixed use, that's what actually makes CBDs thrive, that's what makes them safe. And so that's something we're absolutely for. So for Porirua, what we're saying is that you're part of a region, yes, a lot of your people live here and then they go to Seaview, they go to Wellington, they go to Upper Hutt, they work active. So the one we talk about a lot is that 3.1 business differential. In your previous LTPs, you've talked about the fact that Porirua does not have enough businesses to support itself. Compared to other similarly sized cities, you're massively underrepresented with economic development. To say, we are here, we are ready to partner with you, we want you here, and we're going to do everything. These eye-watering rate rises that everyone in the country is facing, they will be felt particularly keenly by business. So for every dollar that a residential as reward for their risk. So we really, really recommend that you look at that really, really hard and understand why you're doing it. Because we really do support any opportunity to not use rates. Rates are a very blunt good for everybody. We really support it. The other things like your curbside recycling, Wellington's doing the same thing, but they're doing a targeted rate on the residential outsized impact on something that only residential ratepayers are going to be recovering. And so we really think you should look at whether you could make that a bit more user pays, that the water infrastructure and other roads, it's a major impact. We'd be really, really keen to under development. We just want to be really sure that when you're stopping something, you're actually under safety in the CBD is something they see as really important. And so just running the economic development lens, what's the impact of business sustainability? So it's all of those things that are in there. They're all good things. We just really want to see business, economic development, how we're going to make these people come here and have something to do, have a reason to invest. There's some amount. Let's make the waterfront somewhere that mixed use model. Let's have events. Let's do what we can to get them behind the infrastructure and the investment that is to business, to people that are currently outside of this region. We are open for business. We are ready. We do want you here. We do value mobile workforce. You potentially have greater access for businesses. I think it's creating that want for people to be here, to come potential industrial land, like really looking at how we can max.
Wow, that's the best we've seen.
But Steve, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you were telling me that we're not doing. What is it that we're doing wrong that you didn't? Because I sort of found it a bit waffly and yeah.
No, the detail. Look, do absolutely acknowledge some of those initiatives like Love Local, etc. I guess what I'm talking about is what is our action plan? Same for Cobham Court. What is our action plan for those areas? And while I know that there is a lot of activity, Love Local, develop like the previous speaker said, like Jason said, to create an environment and not going into Wellington or not going up the coast to Parapara, Umu or Kapiti or going somewhere else. We need our local people to
support that, but when we're talking about that lack of business and economic development emphasis is when you're talking about that expansion, what is the aspect of as possible? So we're making those other decisions that there is a sort of economic development lens to it. And so, and earlier, so having that economic development shunted up the priority list so that when we're making these decisions, that it's just made sure that it's explicit, you've prioritised it in your assessment.
Thanks, Jason. I'm going to allow two more quick questions with quick answers from Councillor Haywood and Councillor Trillam.
Kia ora, Mātua Upoko, thank you very much for your submission, gentlemen. I just want to get clarity. In your submission, it talks about advocating for GST to be returned to the regions, actions within the territory. Is that right? What you're advocating for?
Definitely the GST on rates, but I do think anything to bring more money back to anything, happy to be as novel or aggressive in all of those settings as possible to get more money in local government to allow for these investments, get those balance sheets moving, get those things to support the economic growth in the region.
Okay, thanks. And
a little bit. If we were to look at adjusting that and bringing it down, that would obviously have an impact on our overall revenues. Is it the view of the Chamber that if we were to do that, we should be looking at...
I think the core, the starting point is that they should never have been put in the first place because they're only ever really used as a populist vote gathering. We're going to punish the business because that's a good vote winner to keep the residential rates low. So I think the starting point is that we never should have got a proportionate amount. And so 3.1 is... So 3.7 in Wellington is the highest in the country. 3.1 would be right up near the top of all of the city.
Right, that brings us to presentation number 295.
It is, I can indeed hear you.
Fantastic. You've got 10 minutes. I don't know whether you... So the way it works is you... Okay.
Kia ora, thank you very much.
Away you go.
Kia ora tātou, ko Angela McLeod aho. I'm based in Upper Hutt personally, and so zooming in from the rural surrounds. And we stretch from Horowhenua, Wairarapa, right down to the Cook Strait. Your discussion around the possibility of doing some food waste provisions in your recycling plan, or do was fund some upscaling, because there are some quite good composting and food waste projects that are not covered in your long-term plan, but are probably district plan options for you, strategy, which I don't see discussed at all or very much. And so within that, there is ensuring that each new build has water storage developing, and then they sell it back to anybody who wants to buy it. And we would like to see that actually makes good gardens. In food production, we would like you to we would like you to care about your community gardens, and if there are any cuts that you are wanting to make as a food lens over your work. And that is what we were asking with the future development strategy. And I'm not sure, because I wasn't able to make that hearing, who was represented from Porirua around that table, but we really would like you to, take some time to ensure that the that's taken into account. One of the some three other key points is when you're considering your business development and support for business development in Porirua, I've just heard the chamber, is ensure that food businesses are supported and considered, as well as understanding that those food businesses, or some businesses, are in the entire food circle, from growing to waste disposal and composting to nutrients to retail. When you're considering events to support, ensure that any food or food education networking event is supported. When considering sustainability projects, ensure that any project which builds food sovereignty, resilience and upscaling food waste, for example, are supported. When you're talking about infrastructure, ensure that food infrastructure is included in those conversations, such as community food spaces when you're doing housing developments. Though more importantly, what we're wanting to see is the equitable access to community food production spaces, to even consider a food system strategy. And of course, we all love being first, right? So hold on to that. Let's be the first to be food resilient, to have sovereignty for all Porirua citizens, and to take a food role in the future development strategy. Please ensure food is front and centre. The time is now. The people need you now. You have the power to ensure all your people have equity of access to nutritious food. Please use it. Kia ora.
Thank you, Angela. Questions, councillors? Does anyone have a question for Angela? There don't appear to be any questions, Angela. So thank you very much for your submission. And
Thank you.
We know it is in the regional strategy, and
Yes.
That's something that we'll look at in the future.
Yes, well, it would just be for us. We would like to see it in your LTP, because if you don't do it now, when will you do it? That's the question.
That was a timing issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very
Kia ora.
much. All right. So that moves us on to submitter 296, who's Gia Thompson from Mega Properties. And Amar. Yes, this is a Zoom. Do we have Gia? Oh, he's just joining now. So we'll just wait. Yep, we're a minute ahead of time, that's why. If there's an issue, we do. Great. Can you hear us, Gia? Hello? Not yet. What? He's in Nelson. Make a difference to. Maybe. Is that our end or his end? His end. He's what? Yeah, I can see that. Are you there, Gia? We can move. Sorry? Yeah, so if we're happy to move on to the next submitter, who's here, Russell Morrison, number 324, while you get gear on the... So, Russell, you're an individual submitter, you've got 5 minutes, you know the drill, I think. The bell will ring at 4 if you want any questions, or otherwise you can carry on till 5 minutes. So you've got the green lights on there, I assume? Okay. Is that right? Yep. Well, press the button. The green light should go on. Can you help?
There we go.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Away you go.
Thank you. I bid you all good morning and hope that you've received and perhaps read the attachment to my submission even though it's the same as what I said 3 years ago. And the best option or options will also be influenced by what services are to be introduced for organic and green waste. And I don't propose to talk about village planning, except to say that if done well, getting people involved in preparing and less daunting than asking them to make submissions on things like this LTP or the annual plan or reviews of the district plan. There are, however, two areas where I want to add a little, and the need for it to go beyond simply focusing on governance or administrative structures and on what is going into the harbour. I believe it should be looking, sorry, I'll just change those, not only at what more can be done to maintain the harbour's extremely important ecological values, but also its recreational, aesthetic, amenity and economic, including property, values. I'm pleased that one of the Council's 4 strategic priorities is to commit to the health of the harbour and its catchment through investment, advocacy and regulation. And I'm referring to page 10 of the consultation document and pages 21 to 23 of the supporting information, that there is quite rightly a strong emphasis on such measures as reducing wastewater overflows into the harbour, except through Mana and Parramatta at this stage, I hope. Tightening compliance on earthworks, preventing water contamination, restoring salt marsh communities and streamside planting. In other words, reducing sediment and pollutants getting into the harbour. I would hope, however, that the new harbour strategy will consider a more flexible, comprehensive and proactive stance aimed at restoring and improving the harbour, including measures like those previously advocated by the Patanui Inlet Community Trust, plus modelling the effects of tidal restrictions and looking at ways to address the proliferation of algae, black swans and Canada geese numbers on the harbour. I can elaborate on Pic's suggestions if you want me to do later. I also wonder whether funding has been provided in the plan to allow the public to have an input into the proposed harbour strategy. The other matter relates to the cycleway or pathway around the inlet. The supporting information on page 18 refers to an assumption that Waka Kotahi intends revoking the state highway status of State Highway 58 between Pātano and Parramatta, with negotiations starting during this period. And it mentions some risks, including reliance on the quality of the asset being at an acceptable level when the revocation process begins. I and many other people have known for decades that this stretch of State Highway 58 is not fit for purpose as a state highway and will be even less so as a local arterial. This belief has now been supported by the road safety system audit prepared by Urban Connection Limited for Waka Kotahi in early 2023, but not yet widely released for public information. I continue to believe that the only time Waka Kotahi is ever likely to put funding into making the road fit for purpose, whether that be by creating a shared pathway alongside it or, as suggested by some, turning it into a one-way road, will be as part of the revocation process. And I'm concerned that Council does not let that opportunity slip, regardless of who ends up being responsible for the road. My objective at present is simply to get that message through. The costs should be met by Waka Kotahi, and it may or may not be appropriate to mention this in the LTP. Thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Russell. We've got time for quick questions if councillors want to ask them. Are there any questions from councillors? There don't appear to be, so thank you, Russell, for your presentation, and we note your concerns around State Highway 58 particularly. All right. Thank you for that. Do we have Gear Thompson back? Gear, can you hear us? You're muted, I think. Can you unmute? It's a nasty assumption. Gare, we cannot hear you. Sorry. I've told him he's muted. I mean, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, good. We're away. Yeah.
All right, we're away. So you've got 10 minutes, Gare. And
Thank you very much.
The bell will ring at 8 if you want to have questions. If not, carry on to 10.
Okay. No, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. I'll just go through a few of the points here. Regarding the rubbish collection, I believe that the present system is probably the most cost efficient with the rubbish bags. Adding the cost of extra bins and that sort of thing always just adds to the cost. But that's my current view on that one. Now I believe is the time when we've got to keep all these costs and charges as low as possible, because with the high interest rates and the exceptionally high insurance rates at the moment, along with other costs in households and businesses are both under severe pressure, and it's really essential to keep these costs as low as we can. And regarding the excuse me, I'm child minding here. If you hear an odd noise in the background, I would be opposed to replacing the gas central heating systems, because I believe from our experience that the gas is far the cheaper and simpler way than a whole lot of air conditioners, which often have considerable costs in running them and also fixing them, and then sometimes they don't get replacement parts and you have to replace the whole thing. Whereas the gas seems to be very simple, very reliable, and I believe it far cheaper to leave it as that. And a lot of the cost for developing these parks and reserves, which is one of the things there that was mentioned, I understand, I assume your council does as most do, is they take reserve fund contributions from developers as they are developing areas, and or make the developer provide some of these reserves as parks and reserves to so that should take a lot of the cost away from the general ratepayer. The three water system that had been proposed under the Labor government was unfair and was top heavy and very remote governance structure, and planned to join a whole lot of unrelated areas together, which is not good for ongoing administration and sorting problems out. Like the Porirua area was included in East Cape down to Tasman, or part of Tasman. They were taking part somewhere else, and to the Chatham Islands. That Wellington Water is like a mini Three Waters in the Wellington region, and if it's probably run efficiently and very responsive, I believe that is probably the best solution there. But I would say that Porirua needs to be well represented on it and keep in a good interest in what is going on and how they are operating, because I think in the past they haven't been over efficient. And now the other problem we have is why the commercial rates are asked to pay so much and a greater increase than the residential rates. We're already paying 2.6 times the residential rate, and I don't believe it's at all justified. Rating differentials are a good way of making certain areas pay more, which is sensible enough. But unfortunately, a few years ago, we had our rates increased considerably because they changed the differentials, or changed our grouping, and put us in the shopping plaza group, which had a 20% extra rate increase. The sort of things why they need differentials is, though, and just to help people understand, is we also pay the rates on our car parking land, which downtown, the car parks are provided by the council, and now they're charging for them. But we also have to pay for the lighting of the car parks, the sealing of them and maintaining the seal of the car parks. We have to pay for the marking out of the car parks. And we have to pick up all the rubbish, and that is a considerable business. And the rubbish bins that are there, we find that a lot of people drop their household rubbish in them as well. But downtown, the rubbish is collected by the council and tidied up by the council, whereas we've got all these extra costs, including, as I said, paying for the rates on the land that we provide for the parking. So there's a real reason there to have a differential, and one that allows for these costs. And in the case of the mega centre, we have a size limit on the size of shops that we could have there, which is sensible because you want to preserve the CBD area. But it is just another restriction, which means that we have a different set of circumstances to work under compared with the other area of the business area. And one of the other things is the uniform annual charge. I see that every other place is going to be paying $425, whereas in our case, if we're a major shopping plaza area, we can pay up to $17,000. It's just another cost that adds to the whole cost of operating. But I would say...
You're muted again, Gear.
That Sean Fremantle has been very helpful when we're looking at doing anything, which we have been looking at doing a development at the top end of the mega centre. But unfortunately, at the moment, the costs of doing such things is fairly excessive, and it doesn't stack up economically. But no, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm just happy to answer any questions that councillors may have.
Thank you very much, Gear. Councillors, do we have any questions? Councillor Philo, then Councillor Trillin.
Good morning, Gear, and thank you for your submission. Just a really quick question. We had the chambers here before, and they suggested for the waste to apply a targeted rate so that the actual users of the bins, the residential bins, would be charged. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on that suggestion.
So you're saying that there'll be a rate for the residential people for their bins. Excuse me.
Yeah, I believe that's what they were suggesting, so that businesses potentially wouldn't be paying for something that they're not using.
Yes, no, well, yeah, that would probably be sensible too, excuse me. Yeah, because a lot of businesses probably dumping, taking their rubbish directly to the dump or through the recycling centre, which does make sense. But it is certainly, we find at the mega centre that we get a lot of people wanting to just dump their household rubbish as well, possibly because of costs or just convenience for ease. They just think they'll drop it there when they're there. And unfortunately, there seems to be an education process needed with people about where you dump your rubbish, because they just open the window or drop it as they're walking and it blows all around the place, and it is a perpetual headache to us. And unfortunately, I don't know why people need to do that, but that is one of our concerns. If it would be great if people would put the rubbish in the rubbish bins and didn't let it just blow around everywhere else.
Thanks. All right. Councillor Trillin.
Kia ora, Gear, thank you for your submission. I saw in your written submission that you wanted Council to remove all unessential and unnecessary costs. I wonder if you could just speak to that a bit further. Are there any areas of spending that Council is currently doing that you think we should be reducing spending in or stopping altogether?
Okay, I'm sorry, but I haven't probably gone into the detail of that, but I would imagine there'll be some things there which are not really necessary at this time. I think, maybe next year and the year after things will come right again a bit, because if interest rates ease off, inflation's eased off, I think that might be a time when other things can be done. But this coming year, I think, is going to be a tough one for lots of people, and I don't believe it's a time to have any expenditure that isn't really necessary.
Thank you.
So can I just ask
You want a
clarifying?
supplementary, I'll allow.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. And thanks for that, Gear. On sport, are there particular areas that you feel, because obviously we can trim around the edges, but short of actually reducing something quite significant, it's not going to have a meaningful impact. So is there an area we're spending too much in?
Well, obviously the water is essential, and transport is partly government subsidised, I assume. But no, I think a lot of little things can add up too, and also make a reasonable difference, because sometimes people think, oh, it's only 5,000 here or 10,000 there, but 10 times 10,000 is 100,000, and all the time because of that sort of thing. Because if you just said, oh, no, it's only a bit here and a bit there, you find that it soon adds up. And
Out of time, so thank you very much for your presentation. And let's now move to submitter number 285, which is Wellington Free Ambulance. Sorry, you can, you're obviously not Dominic.
No, not Dominic.
Yes, push the green button.
Does that work?
Okay, so
Slides.
I'm
Claire Carruthers,
Claire.
so I'm the General Manager of Fundraising and Communications at Wellington Free Ambulance. My colleague Dominic was going to be doing this presentation, but his wife has whisked him away on a birthday treat. So you've got me, which is lovely.
Just to let you know, Claire, that in case you didn't know, you've got 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. The bell will ring at 8, and any questions from councillors can be in the final 2 minutes, or you can go the whole 10. And
Wonderful. I'll try not to go the whole 10. So I'm here today to just talk about, first of all, that we have a fantastic relationship with this council. We were founded nearly 100 years ago. You know our story. We are the only free emergency ambulance service in New Zealand. We're extraordinarily proud of that fact. And we will be free for nearly 100 years. And our mission is to remember every day. We do. And it's is exactly what we do every single day. And I just want to highlight some of the figures. So I won't go over all the statistics, but the main one to know is right in the heart of Wellington City, in Thorndon, there is one of 3 clinical communication centres in New Zealand, and we answer over 250,000 emergency calls per year. In the peak of our demand, that is looking at 2,000 calls a day over a 24-hour period, and that's from our clinical communications team from Wellington Free Ambulance. We do nearly 54,000 emergencies per year across our region. So we have a staff of 400 people, 210 paramedics, 50 clinical communication staff and support staff that make that up. So 400 people serve 500,000 people, which is our entire region. And so I always say that we're a small service with a really mighty impact. Now, the other statistic that I want to raise, which I know is obvious, but it's surprising how many people do not know this. When I say we're a free emergency ambulance service, we are free. So the cost of everything that we do is $0 to our community. But of course, there is a cost to provide a free service. Which I will go into later. And then just to know that we provide a world-class pre-hospital emergency health care service, and we know that through our patient survey. So we get our feedback regularly from patients who we treat every day. And you can see there's a 98% agree that we treat all of our patients with kindness and respect. So that is the core of our values, and it's the core of being an emergency health service. So a lot of this, I know, it seems sort of fact, but
but I just really want to reiterate the volume of work we do and the amount of skill and care and clinical expertise it takes. All of our 210 paramedics is now a registered workforce. We are clinical experts in our field, and I do want to reiterate that as well. Paramedics will always say it's very different when you're giving an IV in a stationary, clean environment, very different to doing that when you are 100 kilometres an hour down the motorway trying to reach a patient or get them to where they need to be. Our other areas that we provide too, just to highlight, we are not just an emergency service, we have a patient transfer service. That's 42,000 patients per year transported to and from medical appointments, critical medical appointments. Our highest one that we do is for patients needing dialysis treatment. Without the dialysis treatment 3 to 4 times a week, they simply wouldn't be here. We have our flight paramedics who are in the regional helicopter, and we have our rescue team. So we are much more than just the lights and sirens and the ambulances that you see on the road. So going on to the next slide. Have I got the clicker or? Oh, I've got it. Perfect. So going on to our next slide, which is talking about funding and specifically for Porirua City Council. So on the right, you can see that we do need an increase in funding from all of our councils. And this is because we need to fundraise. Well, we need to look after our people from our councils at $1 per head, and population is growing. So Porirua City Council was one of the first councils that came and funded their residents at $1 per head, and we're enormously grateful for that. Population in Porirua is your surrounding areas, so I'm only asking for an incremental increase to match the population. So at the moment we have an agreement where we receive $60,000 worth of funding per year, and I would like to see that grow next year to just under $64,000. So it's just under $4,000 increase for next year. But we are asking for a slight change to our funding model with all the councils, and that is to see the population increase year on year on. So we would like to have a 3-year agreement that would not do a set amount per year. It would be on the predicted population growth. So in the submission, you can see that at the end of 26, we'd be looking at $5,500. So it would be an increase of $4,000 next year, $4,500 the year after, and then $5,500 the year after that. And that is a funding agreement on the fact that by financial year 2027, which is year 2026, there will be a population increase of 776 people within this region alone. So we just want to see that funding. It's as simple as $1 per head, and we just want to see that remain rather than a fixed sum. I can go on to the next slide. Oh, that's me, sorry. I did another council where someone else pushed it. Apologies. So I'm missing a slide. We're going to go to this one. So this is a dashboard that we create, and this specifically relates to your region. So if you look across the top, this is from May to May. So the figures that you're looking at are 670 at the peak emergency ambulance service is coming at lights and sirens, critical, our most urgent patients. At our peak at 670, that's in the winter month, and that's predominantly due to respiratory illnesses. But what these graphs don't show, which is what I always want to really make the impact, is they don't show the complexity of jobs that we see. So there has been a 45% increase, for example, in mental health patients. So when you're dialing 111, you fear a threat for your life, and that is what we're looking after. It may not be a genuine threat for your life, as in with a cardiac arrest, you may pass, in 6 minutes if we don't get to you, but it's very, very complex patients, so we see that increase year on year on. So you cannot go in and look after a patient with mental health problems within your 19 minutes that you have to do that call out. It takes a lot longer, and we have a skilled mental health team now, a co-response team that supports that. But when I want you to look at these statistics and realise that we look after every single one of your residents, and that is part of being an equitable, free health service. There is no discrimination. We look after everyone and anyone. You can see from ages, we go from age 0 to age 100. It's a smaller percentage with the over 85s and under 15s, but we look after everybody across the region. I'm happy to answer any questions on those later on, and you can see the types of job that are specific to this region on the pie chart on the right. So just to reiterate that 13% of our jobs are for this region alone, across our whole region. An average, now I'm going to do the big figures, which scares everyone, because, I'm only asking for just under $4,000 and then a maximum $5,500 in year 2026-27. But if we look at an average ambulance call out, it costs $650. We do over 7,000 patients in Porirua alone. So to provide a free emergency ambulance service in this region alone costs $4.7 million a year. So they're the big figures, but we need all of our councils to do that dollar per head funding. I will move on to the next slide, which is the fun slide. This is what no, that's not. I've got to go back because I missed one. There we go. So this is what we've done in partnership. And in partnership, I'm going to end on that slide. So that's just a month. So I gave you the big facts, 52,000 a year. It sounds, about 250,000 111 calls. This is what we do with a team of 210 paramedics and 50 clinical communication staff every single month. And 13% of all of that is in this region alone. So I will end there, but thank you very much for your time and for listening.
Thank you very much, Claire. Councillors, any questions? Yes. Oh, sorry, Izzy, I thought you were stretching.
I was sort of
Councillor Ford. Yep.
I was being efficient, stretching in. I think I may have asked this of you last time, but I just can't understand how this service, for what it provides, is not fully funded by central government.
We are having that conversation too. So, but we will never be... my personal opinion, I don't think we will ever reach. We are 82% funded by government. Our magic number would be if we could get the increased central government funding to 92%. That would be our magic number. When I arrived at Wellington Free Ambulance 4 years ago, our task of the funds that we were needing was $6 million. Or we say publicly it's $7.5 million, but we have just looked at all of our budgets and the increase in demand and the fact that our infrastructure and ambulances are not funded by government, we are looking at $11 million as a shortfall that we will need to raise for the next financial year. So for us, that's July to July. And we have an amazing partnership with our community, and fundraising, our charity status is iconic and we're really proud of it. And our partners and councillors and individuals want to fund us, and you can see it through a wealth of activities that we do. But we do need to get that increase up to about 92%. So if you know anyone, tell them.
Okay, any other questions from councillors? Not, I think your story is pretty clear.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So that moves us on to Sarah Murray from Recreation Aotearoa. Sarah, you've heard my spiel about the 8-minute bell and etc. So your time starts when you start speaking.
Very good. Morena koutou, Mayor and Councillors. My name's Sarah Murray and I'm the Chief Executive of Recreation Aotearoa. We're the industry body for recreation in New Zealand, and we provide leadership, advocacy and professional development opportunities for the broader sector. Our aim is to equip individuals and organisations with the skills that they need to deliver high-quality recreation experiences that engage participants. Our mission as an organisation is Te Whai Oranga, enhancing wellbeing through recreation, and noting that Porirua City Council is a Recreation Aotearoa member, and your staff have participated in our professional development programs and quality assurance programs over many years. We believe that recreation in all its forms, including takaro and play, is vital to a healthy, thriving New Zealand and to a thriving Porirua City. Recreation is not just about enjoyment, it's about being healthy, physically, mentally and spiritually, being engaged and being connected both to your community and to your local place. For young people, it's about developing important life skills. The benefits of recreational physical activity are extensive and well documented. These are outlined in detail in our written submission. And New Zealanders intuitively understand this, with 84% of us agreeing that sport and physical activity brings people together and creates a sense of belonging. For Māori, recreation is about te whai oranga, the active pursuit of well-being and the connection between people, place and the natural world. In a world struggling with disconnection and environmental challenges, the wisdom of te whai oranga, a te ao Māori approach to recreation, offers a powerful and much-needed antidote. And we acknowledge Porirua City Council's partnership with Ngāti Toa Rangatira and encourage you to invest in providing recreation opportunities that support Māori to recreate in culturally relevant ways. You'll well know that councils in New Zealand play a critical role in providing opportunities for community to be physically active. Local government is the single biggest funder of play, active recreation and sport, investing just over $1 billion in 2022. That's about 25% of the total funding invested by any party, and it's significantly more than central government and Class 4 gaming grants combined. The importance of local government investment in enabling recreation and physical activity cannot be overstated, and I think that for a long time it has been understated. By investing in that promote engagement in play and active recreation, you're enhancing the health and well-being of your community. We recognise that local government is contending with a multitude of financial challenges, including those related to water infrastructure, climate change adaptation and mitigation, inflation, and the almost perennial imperative to keep rates rises low. Additionally, we note that there has been a significant decrease in the Lottery's Significant Projects Fund of late, which traditionally supports sport and recreation infrastructure. We also note that currently there's no specific central government funding allocated for community sport and recreation infrastructure, and the prevailing financial conditions indicate that this issue may not be addressed in the near future. You are helping to create a community where active living matters. The work of Porirua City Council makes a real difference. Porirua City Council has a critical part to play in ensuring people continue to enjoy quality recreation opportunities. These need to be available to everyone, regardless of age, fitness level, ability, or socioeconomic background. Research shows that physical activity levels are declining across and help reverse this trend. When the infrastructure is in place, such as parks, playgrounds, or aquatic facilities, people are more likely to be active. Council planning needs to adopt a long-term approach that considers factors such as urbanisation, population growth, and an ageing population to ensure that recreation can continue to thrive amid change. We've observed that across the country, regional's involvement in the Nukuora-led Places and Spaces Regional Forum and encourage you to continue to take a regional network approach and work in partnership with your neighbouring councils. We support the proposed investment in active recreation infrastructure and services outlined in your draft long-term plan. We support your commitment to invest in active transport, noting that active transport infrastructure achieves the dual symbiotic benefits of easing congestion and making it easier for residents to integrate new infrastructure, particularly play spaces. We also submit that it is essential that the planned investments in public toilets, walkways, and connecting green spaces are implemented. We encourage Porirua City Council to increase investment in the accessibility of play spaces and parks and commit to consulting and collaborating with people with disabilities and their whānau, as specified within the long-term plan. In addition, we submit that rapid changes in demographics, participation trends, and technology mean that a build it and they will come approach doesn't always work. Simply building infrastructure is not enough. Recreational assets need to be activated and programmed to make them more appealing and to break down barriers for hard-to-reach areas of the community. We encourage Porirua City Council to invest in community programming in addition to recreational infrastructure. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard in support of our submission, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Are there any questions from councillors? Yes, Councillor Hager.
Kia ora, thank you very much for your submission. I was heartened to see so far of all the submissions that yours is the first that's actually explicitly stated the challenges for those with disabilities and the direct lived access component of that. And it's covered obviously in your paragraph 69 through 71. Do you have any additional commentary as to what are ideal mechanisms that the council could establish, or examples from other jurisdictions that you are aware of that could be considered as ideal approaches on that?
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you for your question. So we're strong proponents of universal design, so really integrating accessibility throughout the whole journey for projects. There are several good examples of accessible play spaces in New Zealand. There's one that actually won our Play Space of the Year award last year in your neighbouring council up in Kapiti, with the community, understanding the lived experiences of people with disabilities, particularly young people with disabilities, and then integrating that into the design. Like all things, it does require commitment and investment, and I strongly encourage the council to think about prioritising disability and inclusion, accessibility when making funding decisions around play spaces.
Thanks. Any other questions from councillors? If not, thank you very much for your presentation. Right, councillors, we're now going to take a break. We'll be back here at 10:20. All right, everybody. Here. Ah, there is a gavel. I didn't even see it. All right, everybody. So we're back in session. First up, we have a couple of videos to play. Going to give us enlightening information. Here's some highlights.
Thank you to everyone who made a written video or oral submission on our long-term plan. We received more than 500 submissions in total, which is a 50% increase. Our video submissions have been an amazing success, with around 200 videos received. Most of these are from Pacific peoples, and almost half of these are from our rangatahi. So thank you all.
And now I'm here to speak on
my concerns that I have for our...
I'm one of the ex-student leaders of the Aotea College Samoan group.
I'm a community leader for our Niue community.
And there is beauty when we gather, when Pasifika people gather in unity.
We are a Pasifika city, we are a Pasifika town, and we are Pasifika proud.
Kia ora, my name is Muriel.
Kia ora, my name is Joelle.
Hi, my name is Eseta.
Hi, my name is Ime.
Hi, my name is Jada Dio, and I'm 10 years old.
My name is Siahi Pasi.
My name is Jane Fruin.
My name is Eddie Kumi.
So Falava, we are the Traders, proud members of the Porirua community.
Talo Falava, my name is Filoi, and this is Lota Whakatai.
Miuna, Harakatene, Tukitena, Arekua, Harakua.
They fuele mea whawhiolo unua mau.
Kai ngane po te mene te karo.
Ia ingata i leo, o nisi fuele.
My name is Etsta EJ Janie Tupolo.
I believe that the youth is the key to...
I just want to total call.
Kia ora, my name is Casey.
Kia ora te whānau, malo soipua maua malangi mama, o lo ingoa o tangi whano se tangata.
I'm a proud local in the community.
Pacifica or not, the doors are always open.
Talo Falava, my name is Reverend Martin Mariota.
Hi there, my name is Noah Yuta.
From my perspective,
I've been a resident at in Porirua, Cannons Creek.
Talo my name is Antonio, and I'm from the Porirua community.
Talo Falava, lari ma, lo ingoa whalatawita.
I'll just be sharing my experience.
A proud Porirua living in Mangele.
Calling you from my beautiful home of Manukau City in Auckland.
Le sua se lolo I se popo e tasi. You can't make a bottle of coconut oil with only one coconut, but by many.
Whenever you're ready, go.
No, you're a little too...
Wait, start again.
They gone by.
Sorry,
Would you like to say anything? You're okay.
Is there another one?
Yep.
much for the long-term plan. It's really exciting to see the plan come out into the community the way it has. This is also an opportunity for us to give some feedback.
Kia ora nā e te iwi o Porirua, ko tāru ki tāhoi Hodges tōku ingoa. I'm a proud Porirua boy, proud Titahi Bay boy, and it's awesome to see these awesome kaupapa being run by our council.
Look forward to having a conversation in the future, and we'll see you soon.
That's it. Thank you. So we now have submitter 288, Tony Shaw from the Parimata Residents Association. So Tony, you know how this goes. You've got 10 minutes, 8 minutes a bell will ring. If you want people to ask questions, then you can use that final couple of minutes or carry on.
Council staff. The Parramatta Residents Association submission on the draft LTP covered a number of subjects. Today, I want to focus mainly on village planning, water and wastewater, and if there's time, we could cover some general comments on the rubbish collection proposal. So a village planning program, and you've probably heard a problem with that. But we argue that discarding the award-winning village program entirely is short-sighted and basically the wrong decision. Its value in terms of raising community participation and pride is substantial. There are many community projects that would not have happened without the village program. Improvements such as street furniture, public works of art, history trails, walkways, community activity areas, safer nighttime spaces and less graffiti. The village program provides the opportunity for each community to raise their and voice their aspirations for their community. It's a catalyst, and that's a word, it just describes it to me entirely. It's a catalyst to plan projects that otherwise would probably not proceed. Perhaps they can proceed with minimal cost to council. All residents' associations and community groups involved in the last review supported continuing the village program. We agreed to a reset to the original aims and objectives, having basically identified that it had strayed somewhat from its original intent. They can all see the real value to both the communities and to council. The Parramatta Residents Association urges the council not to discard the program. We believe it would be far more acceptable to everyone to continue the current pause. At least continue it until the fiscal position improves. Looking at the LTP, we think that could be possible within the next 2 years. We're confident that many, if not all, residents' associations and community groups will support this approach as an alternative to losing their program altogether. So I'll move on to the Mana Esplanade main sewer. And I'm sure you've heard this many times, but we have to repeat it. This length of pipe has been accepted as under capacity and in poor condition and in need of replacement, both by the council, Wellington Water and various consultants over many years. Local residents and the Parramatta Residents Association have frequently raised the issue of sewage overflows, and council staff advised the issue was being addressed with a significant upgrade of the sewer network. Nothing happened. In 2013, in the LTP, it identified the design and installation of an underground wastewater storage tank in Mana to be completed by 2016, and the under-harbour pipeline to be recommissioned. Nothing happened. The 2021 LTP identifies upgrade of the Mana Esplanade sewer and pump station to be completed by 2032. Now, we think that is too late, but we recognise the fiscal issues However, in this year's LTP, it's to be deferred with no indication of for how long. It's actually getting difficult to believe the council will stick to any commitment it makes to replace it. How can the council say that water and wastewater is a priority in this LTP, but not this length of wastewater pipe? Clearly, 22 years of raising the issue does not make it a priority. 22 years of residents suffering the putrid sewage smell. 22 years of sewage spilling out onto residential gully traps and backing up in toilets. 22 years of sewage surging out of manhole covers when it rains and running down the footpath and curb into the harbour inlet. And 22 years of cars and trucks driving through this sewage, spraying it over adjoining fences and properties and any unfortunate person who happens to be walking by at the same time. The argument that it is only dilute sewage isn't relevant. It still has a high fecal count. The Dollyvarden area is very popular with children and others playing in the water. So this creates a very significant public health risk. Is the council prepared to let this continue for another 10 years or more? If so, how does that fit with council's aim of reducing wastewater overflows into the harbour? Overflows from the minor Esplanade sewer are getting worse. Recently, it overflowed in what we would call normal rain, but prolonged. And it's only going to increase with housing intensification in Mana and further north. Sewage overflows pollute and degrade the harbour. They are environmentally damaging, and we believe it's irresponsible. It's surprising, in fact, that as far as we're aware, the Regional Council hasn't issued a cease and desist order for these unconsented discharges. Council needs to think more about the ongoing impact to residents on the harbour. On residents and the harbour. We want to know when the sewer will be upgraded. We want to have a firm date, and we want it to be stuck to. We want these overflows to stop. So Council needs to make a firm commitment to upgrade the Mana Esplanade sewer, upgrade the pump station, do it sooner rather than later, and please stick to the decision. I'd just cover drinking water supply. We support Council's priority of fixing leaks in Porirua's water supply network. If all the water reached customers rather than 40% of it being lost on the way, our existing supply would be sufficient for many years of population growth. And in the short term, it would result in substantial savings in the bulk water levy. So, saving in rates. Or maybe you spend the money fixing more leaks. But you don't need household water meters to find water leaks. Just drive down a suburban road or respond to residents' complaints. Leaks are often very visible, but they are taking far too long to fix. From personal experience, I can tell you that area meters and sonar are a much cheaper and efficient way of identifying underground leaks. So we prefer that Council focuses more on fixing the leaks, more on upgrading the network, and spend your rates money on this rather than household water meters. Meters that will disadvantage higher households when charging for water is eventually implemented. If I've got any time left, I could mention rubbish.
You've got 2 minutes, so... And if you want, do you want questions?
I'd love questions.
Do we have any questions immediately, councillors?
Is there anything I can help with?
It's pretty clear. Carry on about rubbish.
Okay.
There may be some questions about rubbish.
We had a real difficulty with the rubbish. You gave us option 1 or option 2. The problem is there's so many diverse needs within the community that neither option is working. Option 2, which is the status quo, obviously isn't working because 80% of the population don't use it. And I must admit, I'm one of them. I haven't bought a plastic bag in 30 years. I did a quick survey around our area, and the majority of people are putting out bins. So they're paying for a bin. They'd rather pay for a bin than a plastic bag. It's more flexible, it's more useful. So there are arguments for the bins, and I think it's cleaner, safer, more in line with the future than plastic bags. However, plastic bags don't suit everyone. Bins don't suit everyone. And not everyone puts a plastic bag out every week. In fact, both of my neighbours don't. I've seen them go 3 weeks without putting out a plastic bag. So if you implement option 1, it could be slightly cheaper, and it's only marginal actually, for those who get a green waste bin from, say, low-cost bins. I've checked up on the price. But it's going to disadvantage all those people that put out 1 bag or less a week. And that is most people. So unless you can modify the system, you can reduce the cost, and perhaps it means collecting waste every 2 weeks. So we weren't prepared to really adopt either 1 or 2. We would like to see more investigation done into the issue, and we'd be happy to help.
Okay, are there any questions on that, councillors? I think we've noted that point that you've made, and we've also noted the Esplanade issue as well.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much, Russell.
Tony.
Tony, sorry. I knew you were Tony. Of course you did. Russell's still there, that's why I glanced at him. And well, thank you, Tony and Russell. All right. So that moves us to submission number 207, the living wage. Andrew Chick is going to talk to us about that. Andrew? That's all right, we'll allow friends. This is noting, councillors, that submissions 223 and 225 no longer attending, so. Right, so welcome, Andrew. You've got, if you didn't know already, 10 minutes, and the bell will ring at 8, and so that'll allow a couple of minutes for questions, or you can just continue on. We have a bit of extra time, not that I'm suggesting you use it. Yeah, sorry, the green button, that's it.
Was I loud enough, or do I have to go again?
We heard you, but...
All right, phew. So here with me today are Sam and Nalini, both retail workers here in Porirua. Before you hear from them, some quick words from me, and then, hopefully we will have question time at the end. If you don't know, Living Wage is a movement of faith, community and union groups that promote wages that allow all working people to live with dignity. Unfortunately, not all employers pay wages that are enough to do that. Thankfully, Porirua City Council is, because Porirua City Council is an accredited living wage employer. That's fantastic. That's something I'm really proud of. That's something that we're all really proud of about our city. So today we want to do 3 things. First, we want to say something positive, something we hope you hear from other submitters, but maybe not, and that is thank you for being an accredited living wage employer. It shows real leadership in this community, and it shows a genuine concern for the working people of this city. But second, in that leadership capacity, we think you can show even more leadership. And hopefully, unlike many of the things you will discuss today, those things cost almost nothing. So 1, we'd like you to be more prominent about our city's living wage accreditation. Display the logo at your counter, put it on your stationery, put it on your website, fly the flag. We'd even buy you a flag if there was somewhere to fly it from. But practically, that would mean we'd like to meet with the marketing and communications team here at the council and look at how we can make that accreditation more visible. 2, we'd like you to promote the living wage with local businesses. The living wage is a win-win-win for employees, for employers, and for our community. So we'd like to talk with your business engagement staff about how they can share the positive story of the living wage with local employers. 3, we'd like to meet with the people who oversee procurement for Porirua City to understand how that process works and how it might help more people to earn a living wage through the goods and services that this council buys. And 4, as part of Wellington's region, we'd like Porirua, along with other councils, to advocate for council-controlled organisations in the region to be living wage accredited. In particular, we'd like to start with Wellington Water. So hopefully that's 4 easy steps for a proud living wage city like Porirua to take that won't require extra spending and will deliver great benefits. Sam and Eleni are here to remind you what living on low pay looks like in our community and why we need to do everything we can to keep striving to see everyone in Porirua paid a living wage. Okay. Do you want to go first, Sam?
All right, yep. Yeah, it's already on. Yeah. Tarofa, kia ora, malolelei, purovinaka, maloni. My name is Talosanga Sam Ioane. I live in Porirua all my life, and I work at Pick and Save for 24 years. And I steal $23.65 an hour. So when I hear someone say the meeting is on today, I'm so excited because I know something good happening. So as we all know, the price of everything are going up, and if I look at my 23.65, I can't do a food shopping anymore. It's only a half trolley or something like that. So that's why I'm very, I really need this living wages, you know. And I know Porirua, some of company, some of shop, they already got it, but not Porirua. So I come today and ask you. It would be nice if all the Porirua workers would pay the living wages. Also, I'm 60 now, and I need to save some money for when I retired. So can't do it now because I take all my money to pay my bills, but it's still $2 behind living wage. My wages. So I'm asking you to, this living wage would be very nice if you can do it for us. Yeah.
Where you going?
My name is Nalini. Kia ora, everyone. My name is Nalini Shankar, and I have been working at Pick and Save Porirua for the last 18 years. Currently, I'm a checkout supervisor, and I would just like to highlight some of the points in regards to being paid under living wage. So one, we work very hard like other supermarket workers, and I like being able to save any money for a long time. It would make a big difference to me and all the supermarket workers in Porirua if we were paid the living wage. So I'm basically talking about that the next S is S, save. I cannot save. S currently is I have to sacrifice most of my wants as I can't afford. Thank you.
So here in Porirua, there are big employers with an easy walking distance of this council chambers, who could be doing more to help.
Yes, councillors, any questions? Yes, Councillor Ford.
Talofa Marlene too. Andrew, so I'm hearing that you've gone to Pack and Save directly to have this same conversation?
If can save operate. So this council is an accredited living wage employer. We think that's a really big. I think you could be a bit more visible. It wouldn't take much effort, and so that's what we're hoping you do. We don't expect the council to intervene directly. That's not.
Councillor Trillett?
I thank you for your submission, and actually you've basically just addressed what I was going to ask. I was going to say thank you for the specific asks. That's really useful around those being more visible or that direct advocacy. I think you've addressed that, but it would be interesting if these particular things, I assume you've asked them of other councils.
I can't really directly speak to that because I haven't been involved. In terms of that second, on lots of different subjects, and we're not saying that it has to be front and centre of everything. But there will be opportunities. There'll be fora. Perhaps there'd be an opportunity to say something there. I really don't know.
Any other question? Oh, Councillor Hayward. Sorry?
After. It's always challenging to tell something very personal about yourselves, but you are living it, and so I acknowledge your presence here. Regarding social procurement, are there examples that you know around the types of decisions that have been made by council in alignment with social procurement goals, including the living wage? A campaign, if they ever hear of any examples, to please finish us with those examples. Kia ora.
Thank you. Taku.
Yeah, we are. We are proud about the idea of being in that.
Absolutely. And, they come from one employer, but it's not one employer.
That's one employer.
There are a number of large and an important opportunity to recognise that the local iwi here, Ngāti Toa, is an accredited living wage employer themselves, and that is another fine example in our community.
We'll now move on to the next presentation, which is submitter number 300. They've moved out of the way.
Yeah, I was hiding behind that.
So if you want to come up here, Andrew. So, Andrew, you have 10 minutes.
Sure.
And the bell will ring at 8 to say you've got 2 minutes left if you want.
O te ara, na Māori toro nei, e mihi ana. Nā rangatira, kua mihi mai nei ki a au I tēnei rā, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora everyone. I'm Andrew Leslie and I'm Chief Executive of Nuku Ora. I'm across our region. When I say system, what I mean, it's a collection of people and organisation and resources that help people be active, be physically active. Now we've got a long outcomes where we're hoping for your community as we sort of work towards activating the region. We both of all people and particularly around tamariki and rangatahi. An active engagement with the council across, so we actively supported the development of the neighbourhood play system in Porirua. We work with Porirua schools through the Healthy Active Learning Initiative, and we've worked in partnership with Kāinga Ora and yourselves on a program that we support here for elder adults. And also I'd like to note that we partner with Ngāti Toa to deliver Sport New Zealand's Hiora for Māori. In addition, Ngāti Toa is represented on our board. And also wanted to note that across the last 12 months, $3,000 into Porirua to support activities across play, active recreation and sport. And alongside that, we helped to facilitate $195,000 of NZ funding into physio activity plan. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge how supportive we are of how physio activity is considered in the plan. And this is, despite around the healthy harbour. So the recreational value of the harbour is vast when you think about the activities that take place in and on and under the water. And when these are overlaid with a cultural lens, the value is significantly heightened. I'd like to acknowledge the work around active transport, particularly daily lives. I'd like to today just highlight a couple of key messages. Recently, and whilst our recommendations are pragmatic, so very much taken into account the financial situation on maintenance of current facilities. But our reports did highlight the need for additional community space in Porirua, both built and open. There are sort of no significant projects planned over the next few years, as you sort of stated, when the financial challenges have abated, let's hope. And, you know, in the interim, we'd like you to consider that how those communities that are not well served with facilities, parks, while we wait for that investment into these spaces to come back into play. Also, in the reports, I'd like to note that future, in order to respond to population growth and changes in demographics. And specifically, we talk about spaces and places that are accessible for everyone, so therefore the design facilities. We would like you to think about the sustainable design and management practices, that facilities are connected to transport networks and walkways and cycleways. For the future, we are very excited about our continued partnership with Porirua across a range of New Zealand to think about how the three organisations partner effectively over the next few years. So in our submission, we sort of called out a regional play network and working in partnership with yourselves and Sport New Zealand towards the development of future funding for the council to support the commencement of a play regional spaces and places steering group. And we, look forward to youth development. Very much our focus is through active recreation. Is one of our staff took on a mentoring role for rangatahi within that program, which was just absolutely fantastic to see the outcomes of that. In closing, sort of current challenges you're having around to the financial environment, and very much looking forward to working with you again in the future. Kia ora.
Thank you, Andrew. Obviously, these are challenging times for many in our community. Are you still finding youth people participation are still lower than previous years? And if so, what are some of those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the stats show, and that's why the national policy is very much focused on that drop-off in participation that happens in the teenage years. It's a range of factors, the affordability of participating in various sports and recreational activities. But also, it's thinking about, what are the experiences that young people really want. So there's a lot of focus on really sort of understanding those. And thinking about more than just the physical component, so how do we work in partnerships with others to really understand and support, holistically, young people's development.
Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Matua Upoko. Andrew, first of all, this is not related to the LTP, but it is important on behalf of our hapori kirikiti in Porirua. Do all you can so we can see each other yet again at the base reserve for next year's event.
That was awesome.
It was. I wanted to just bring up the challenge around disability and accessibility. You'll have some previous experience with Recreation Aotearoa, who came in to submit earlier on and talked about the need for a more prominent role in terms of the co-design or the leadership. I wonder if you could give some further commentary about what are ideal models around that type of engagement with those with direct lived experience of accessibility challenges.
Yeah. It's a very complex area, this. There certainly are, advocacy groups that the council could be engaging with. But also there's a lot of expertise within some of the, disability organisations as well. So there's certainly examples around the country of where that works well. Recreation Aotearoa themselves are leading a project at the moment around accessibility in the outdoors. So that's certainly one to keep your eye on. And actually there's a pilot happening at the moment where there are some some tracks across the region that have been sort of assessed under a bit of a new regime, really. So considering different forms of disability and sort of how that relates to standards. So there's a lot of work in play around this at the moment. So keeping engaged with ourselves, with Recreation Aotearoa, all that sort of good practice will be sort of flown down through to councils.
He answered my sub too. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. No more questions.
No other questions? Thank you very much for coming along, Andrew.
No problem.
Thanks. So that brings us to submission number 251, Sarah Habib from Porirua Multicultural Council.
His phone is on the website.
Who's the other one?
I think
Oh, yeah.
Sarah's the one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Want to? Should I hold it?
Okay. Welcome, Sarah. Do you want to introduce your other two comrades?
Yes, absolutely. Ata Māori, everyone. My name
Excuse
is...
me.
Oh, yes, sorry. Quiet in the house. Ata Māori, my name is Sarah Habib. I am the one who made the submission, but it is obviously a collective submission with my lovely colleague Damoda and our president for Porirua Multicultural Council, Sullivan. Otherwise, some of you might know her as Di, but Sullivan. And so we are here to kōrero on our multicultural strategy for Porirua City. Sullivan will be the one to lead this one, so kia ora.
So you will have heard you've got 10 minutes.
Absolutely. 10 minutes. There we go.
Yep.
Inga mana, inga reo, I rau rangatira mā. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Sullivan toko ingoa, he kaihautu o Porirua Multicultural Council. My name is Sullivan and I am the president of the Porirua Multicultural Council. On behalf of PMC, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here today to present to you our proposal for a multicultural strategy for Porirua. I'm joined by Sarah Habib and Damoda. We stand here today with our ancestors from Laos, Indonesia, Iraq, and Nepal, and many other diverse communities who have left their motherland and now call Porirua home. We are here to present to you our proposal for a multicultural strategy because Porirua is rich in diversity and it's evident as you walk around the city. We are a melting pot of cultures, but little is known about the arrival and contributions of those who came to this whenua from other lands. This kaupapa is very special to us as it is part of PMC's overarching vision to be a Te Tiriti-based multicultural community in Aotearoa. In slide number 3, as you probably already know, it's a snapshot of Porirua's demographic, making up, according to the 2018 census, 61.9% identified as Pākehā, 26.3% identified as Pacific Islanders, which is the highest population of Pacifica outside of Auckland, 22.3% identified as Māori, and 11.3% of Porirua's population have identified as multicultural, which includes Asian, Middle Eastern, Latin American, African, and other minority ethnic groups. We know that we have strong connections to iwi Ngāti Toa. We're very proud that our patron is Ngāti Toa Rangatira Rane Winera Parai. And it's no surprise that here in Porirua, it is one of the most multicultural cities in Aotearoa. If we look at slide number 4, this year, we just wanted to highlight some results from a community survey that was done by Kāinga Ora, in which we supported and supported with community engagement from our multicultural communities to participate. We are pleased to highlight some of the findings from the survey. Over 1,200 participants took part in the survey, and from that, 12.5% of participants were from Asian and Middle Eastern, Latin and African population groups. When asked the question, "I belong here," 73% from the Asian group strongly agreed or agreed. Participants from the Mila group also strongly agreed, with 84%. When asked the question, "The community is welcoming to different types of people," 73% from the Asian group strongly agreed, and 93% from the Middle Eastern, Latin American, and African group agreed. When asked the question, "The community works together on shared goals and issues," only 53.3% from the Asian group strongly agreed, and 63% from the Mila group. When asked the question, "There are opportunities to practice culture and languages," 26% from the Asian group responded yes, and 29% from the Mila group. When asked, "Do you feel that all groups in Eastern Porirua are involved enough in decision-making in the city?" 29% from the Asian group said yes, and 33% from the Mila group. Lastly, Porirua is a good place to bring up children. 54.5% from the Asian group said yes, and 46.2% from the Middle Eastern, Latin American, and African groups said yes. Please note that these stats are only a small sample of the ethnic groups from Porirua, and is by no means a true representation of the ethnic communities living in Porirua who have these perspectives. But it does give us a unique insight into how they feel about living in Porirua. This also shows us that ethnic communities have been able to make home in Porirua. However, the survey also highlights there are still barriers that we need to overcome. When asked if Porirua is a good place to bring up children, what's interesting to highlight is the Asians and Mila communities rated lower scores than as compared to Pākehā, Māori and Pacific people. This highlights a lack of engagement from ethnic communities, which has a flow-on effect on people's perception on Porirua. However, there is an opportunity here for councils to step in and improve engagement and bridge the gap for minority communities to participate and feel more included. The multicultural strategy can facilitate this. We look at the next slide. We know that since the 1970s, former refugees and migrants have woven their way into the fabric of society in Porirua. This is something to be celebrated, and we are inspired by other councils who have already done this. Christchurch City Council was the first to establish a multicultural strategy in 2017, and following suit in 2020, Hastings District Council launched its multicultural strategy. Upper Hutt and Napier are currently in the process of developing a multicultural strategy for their cities. So why not Porirua? These strategies share similar goals to embrace and uplift multicultural communities to thrive in the cities that they call home. So why not Porirua? I would also like to acknowledge the recent launch of Maungaroa 2050, the Māori strategy, and Ola Kamatanga, Beginning of Life, the Porirua City Pacific strategy. We tautoko these visions and what these strategies stand for, to uplift and enable future aspirations for our people. We would like to stand side by side with the multicultural strategy. Okay, if we go on to slide 6. We encourage Porirua City Council to consider our proposal to implement a multicultural strategy for the following reasons. A multicultural strategy will strengthen links and relationships between council and ethnic, migrant and refugee communities. It will enhance community engagement and civic participation for these communities to improve social cohesion. It will strengthen connections and relationships between tangata whenua and tangata tiriti. A multicultural strategy will enable Council to follow through on commitments towards ethnic and migrant communities that have been made in previous long-term plans. It will also provide a roadmap to foster a more inclusive city. We all love what ethnic and migrant communities bring to the city. We love their kai. We enjoy the many different cultural festivities that they celebrate. We welcome their entrepreneurial skills that contribute to the local economy, but we don't acknowledge them enough. We believe Porirua can do better. So what are the next steps? It's important that we take the right next steps. Wisdom from rangatira who have paved significant strategies for the city will guide our journey. PMC will partner with Council and like-minded organisations such as English language partners and welcoming communities to engage in community consultation and collaboration. PMC will support and play a key role with designing and delivering the strategy, which will include forming a working group. We propose an 18 to 24 months timeframe from planning and initiating to its official launch. We also have the endorsement and support of Multicultural New Zealand, our forebearers, and rangatira who pioneered Huarahiho pathway, which is a pathway to empowering a tiriti-based multicultural communities in Aotearoa, New Zealand. This kaupapa is not only a significant milestone for the city, but it will pave the way for an inclusive, diverse, and truly multicultural Porirua for future generations to come. Nō reira, ngā mihi nui, kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, Tai. We have time for a question or two. Yes.
Kia ora mātua upoko, sabadi, namaste, assalamu alaikum. Your presentation was very effective in terms of laying out the pitch. I want to ask a more simple question. It's probably closer to a elevator pitch. What is the vision that you want to see at the end of this project in terms of having a strategy? What is that? I know it's a big question, but take a stab.
I have an answer, but I'd like Sarah to share.
I think that is to be discussed thoroughly with the ethnic communities, of course, yes. I can only represent one voice, if not one community, maybe two at most. But I think, it is obviously a very general desire to want to foster social cohesion with multicultural communities alongside Pākehā and Pacifica and Māori communities. But that is generally the overall goal that we want to see, and we want to see our ethnic communities continue to flourish in Porirua and bring their delicious kais and cultures around. And that's well and truly the goal, really. And what that looks like is incredibly different for a lot of people, and we're willing to work that out alongside Council as well. Kia ora.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Duncan, I'll allow it.
Oh, sorry, there's one more thing. So I'd like to add to that. From the survey where it asked Porirua is a good place to bring up children, I'd like to see that percentage go up. That would be one of the goals.
Yeah, thanks very much for this timely presentation. You only need to go to our citizenship ceremonies to see the variety of people coming into our country and the different countries that they're coming from. It's remarkable. And I think it's been due for a long time now. Have you people been in talks with officers yet about this, or is this the first approach to council?
I have had brief conversations with Jeff, actually, a while ago. So, and we know that there are desires to have something like this for established for the city.
All right. I'll allow it, Councillor Tron, yes.
Cheers, thank you, and thank you for this. I really appreciated your acknowledgement within the submission about Porirua not being a replica of Hastings or Christchurch, needing to develop a bespoke approach within Porirua, exactly the approach that I agree with. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more to the comment around being helped to facilitate and lend support for engaging with the community to figure that out. And you noted in the submission the example of the LTP drop-in submission, which you helped to host. I just wonder if you have other ideas, things you'd like to draw our attention to around what that could look like.
We would take guidance from our rangatira, and also use a similar approach to what the Pacific strategy and Māori strategy have used, only because we want to learn from what's been done. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and but it will be done in a way that will be meaningful and inclusive of the many voices that we would like to represent. And yeah, the working group would help steer that direction for us.
Great, thank you, and thank you for your presentation.
Kia ora.
Very good. So that brings us to supplemental number 177, Rebecca Burgess. Yeah. So you've got 5 minutes, Rebecca. 5 minutes. It'll ding the bell will ding at 4, and if you want to have any questions, but you can carry on to the 5 minutes. No, it's not. Yeah. Your microphone, can you push the
something?
Yeah, that's
Oh, there we go. That's better.
Okay.
I'm really sorry. We've been away and it's been a bit of a time, so I haven't got copies for everyone, but I can provide this by email after the after the meeting later on today. Good morning, Mayor, councillors, and Porirua City Council. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am, my name is Rebecca Burgess, obviously, and I'm a ratepayer and a mum to a 4-year-old and a stepmum to an 8-year-old. I was one of just under 60 households severely impacted by the flood of 2020 in Plymouton's Karihana Bay. Affected residents are now on edge during heavy rainfall, wondering if this is going to be the next big one. I moved to Plymouton 7 years ago after purchasing an ageing batch there, and my enjoyment of the area has gone downhill pretty fast. I am a mum and I care because I think about the kind of world that I'm bringing my little girl into, and it concerns me greatly because I'm just not seeing the leadership that's required to carry our region into the future. I'd like to address first the underinvestment in stormwater. Your council promised Karihana Bay $17.9 million to remediate the flood issues that occurred in November 2020, but you are now proposing to reallocate this money to other things. I note on page 18 of the long-term plan that the stormwater investment is at just 5.3% of the council expenditure, while wastewater is at 16.3%, and drinking water is at 12.4%. Now, as one of more than 55 households who were flooded out in that November 2020 flood, we were rendered homeless. My voice is one that deserves to be heard. Do you know what it's like to be homeless with an 8-month-old baby in your arms, shifting from place to place while your house is rebuilt? We moved 15 times in that 9 months we were out of my house. And my home required a more than $100,000 rebuild. It's a lot more than that. Do I now feel safe in my home? I do not, and it's still 4 years on taking a toll. I cannot believe that we are still fighting this battle. We listed my home for sale after the rebuild was complete, and we wasted nearly a year of our family's time and money marketing and looking for a property to relocate to. But the flood was clearly weighing on purchasers' minds and we couldn't sell. We received no offers. During rain events now, both my husband and I are out all hours of the day, clearing drains or online, constantly monitoring rainfall. I do apologise, this is really, really hard for me. There appears to be little oversight on the operational stuff of maintaining the stormwater networks. I have so many times rung the council requesting something to be done, and that hasn't been in relation to the in Ely Road at the moment. It wasn't even turned on, and nobody can tell me why. All of this work we're doing along with running a business, caring for a busy family, and my husband's demanding job. For 4 years since the flood, I, along with members of the Plimerton Flood Action Group, with Porirua City Council approving the building of the houses all around me and the ageing stormwater that is simply not up to the task, it's not good enough, and you have a legal obligation to protect. I have in Appendix 1 attached a news release from Porirua City Council dated 4th of November 2021. The key points are here. The Karihana catchment was assessed by flood modelling as the highest priority flood-prone location in the city. Wellington Water's recommended option delivers benefits to the majority of homes across the edge of works went ahead as soon as possible. And you said, I'm here for the whole city, but for me this is about doing one job and doing it right. The impact on this community was devastating and we need to move as fast as we can. I've still got
time, but
okay.
I'll allow you another minute.
Thank you. So I'll wrap up. I won't talk about rates increases and I won't talk about rubbish bins, but that will be in my... and I've previously recommended councillors look towards other councils and areas that have done stormwater remediation well in flood-prone areas. And I was wondering why you can't partner with other councils or seek advice from other agencies who do this stuff well. Given renewed underinvestment in stormwater, I do not agree with making stormwater the least funded of the three waters, and I'm very disappointed that your council appears short-sighted in this matter for our embattled community and start making decisions that will protect our people. Mayor and councillors, I am the guardian of my child's future, and I hope that future looks a little better than the past 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Okay.
Somebody will give that to you. Okay. Councillors, I think we don't have time for questions, but we understand where you're coming from, Rebecca. We have been talking about this. So,
great.
Yeah. Thank you. Runanga o toa rangatira.
He's transformed.
Yes, he has.
3 people.
Yeah, we won't pretend to be Rawiri folk.
No, that's all right. You can introduce yourselves then. We can.
He mihi nui, he mihi mahara kia koutou katoa. Thank you for having us here today. So my name is Robert McLean, Principal Advisor for Te Runanga o Toa Rangatira, and with me is...
Kia ora, ko Jada tōku ingoa.
And I'm Ash.
So we're here today to speak to the submission. We haven't prepared anything separate from the submission that we sent in, so we're just going to highlight a few points. But just to say that overall we felt the consultation process and engagement process for this LTP round was pretty high quality. I know Ash was interviewed, weren't you, Ash, when the crew came to the Whitireia Polytechnic. So I felt there was definitely a big effort there to reach that community, because a lot of people don't write submissions or don't get involved in these processes.
Yeah, it was nice to have the phone and you could do a verbal one if you couldn't, so it was cool.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, high five on that one. we just wanted to, I'll hand over to Jada to say a few points.
So throughout our submission, we discussed a range of kaupapa, including transport, housing, education and employment. But today we want to focus on our priorities, which are Te Awaroa o Porirua and climate change. And we want to acknowledge the mahi that has been done so far to help with the restoration of our harbour, especially with the Harbour Accord, which both Robert and Ash have been working on, and which is hoping to be signed in June. And we also acknowledge the kaupapa identified in the long-term plan, such as stream riparian management, the completion of the Bottomley Park trunk sewer upgrade, the compliance on earthworks and sediment discharges, and the Saltmarsh Community Restoration Program, which will all have positive contributions towards restoring our harbour. We note that in the LTP it has been proposed to reduce funding for stage 2 of the Parimata wastewater trunk upgrade, and this does pose concern for us as this project is essential for restoring the health of our harbour. We have experienced many wastewater overflows at Parimata, and this work would have helped to mitigate this from happening. This site is an important site for gathering kai moana and is also a site where we undertake cultural health monitoring as part of the Te Araoro Kawamoana research project. So we ask that this is made a priority. And for Te Runanga, improving the health of our harbour is a priority which we aim to achieve through establishing active kaitiakitanga of our harbour, nurturing our whakapapa connections and creating opportunities for tamariki and rangatahi to connect and learn about Te Taiao. And the second priority for us is climate change. This is one of the single biggest threats to the health and well-being of our community. Events such as drought, flooding, sea level rise, heavy rain events and storm surge pose significant threats, especially to our whānau who are living in Takapuahia and Hongoika. We wish to continue to work alongside Porirua City Council to develop long-term research and implementation strategies for these sites, especially those along the coast with significant threats. And we encourage projects to address the challenges of climate change. So I'll pass over to Ash.
The third is waste management. Te Runanga supports initiatives for waste management that will result in a waste minimisation and more sustainable methods of waste reduction and recycling. Through our engagement with the Council on the future of Spicer landfill and waste management generally, Te Runanga supports methods which encourage the reduction of waste and diversion of products that can be recycled and reused. PCC are seeking feedback on rates-funded curbside rubbish and recycling collection. The aim of this initiative is to supply adequate access to waste management services whilst increasing the rate of recycling and reducing the amounts of waste going into the landfill. Overall, we are supportive of the introduction of the new rates-funded curbside rubbish and recycling collection service. We also encourage PCC to develop a system for collecting and managing organic waste to reduce organic waste ending up in the landfill and less generations of methane and leachates.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, I think that's probably some of our main points. Yeah. But just to follow up on, you just heard Rebecca speaking from Kirahana Bay, and we're just noting the. It's related to climate change, right, and the impact and the whole flood retreat program, and that is a concern. Any reduction in funding in that space. So just supporting on that, but also we've got question marks about the not only Kirahana Bay but also the Taupo catchment at Plymouth. So that's also concerning any reduction in funding in that space. I think that's probably us. But also we heard this morning about the Mangaroa strategy. And I think congrats to the council, especially Steve Kenny, for working on that. Done a great job. But I guess the only concern there is what's the proof in the pudding in terms of implementation and funding allocated to follow that up. And that will be the same issue with the Harbour Accord. These documents look great, but what's going to happen on the ground? So, yeah, I think that's probably us.
Great,
Any
thank you.
questions?
Any questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Tēnā koutou ngā mihi ki a koutou koe tai mai ai ki koe nei. He patai. I was interested in the paragraph around housing, especially the second paragraph rather, of housing. I was wondering if you could give further expansion on the Rununga's view around creating fiscal incentives to help with regards to community housing, papakainga within Porirua.
Yeah, it's quite a big question, and we could spend quite a lot of time on it. But I know the council, for one thing, is proposing the rates remission on Māori land, and I think that's a step in the right direction, opening up that policy. I think there's about zoning or papakainga in the district plan, so we've worked with the council on that to basically make it easier for council Māori landowners to build whare on their own land. So I think that's the other thing. And I think it probably comes back to the uncertainty in the central government now with Kāinga Ora, how much funding is coming or will be coming in from central government, and what local authorities or councils can do to kind of bridge that gap. Not an easy one with current uncertainty in central government, but yeah, it's probably not quite answering your question, but I'll give it a shot.
Yes, Councillor Philo.
Kia ora, thanks for coming in. Ash, you mentioned organic waste and encouraged us to sort of look at solutions around that. And I just wondered if you had any suggestions that you could share with us.
I mean, I worked with Emily and the group who created the Greater Waste, Greater Place, Less Waste kaupapa that we did regionally. And I think it all comes down to money and who's got the land and who's going to do the place. I think everybody's on board to do organic waste. It's just trying to find the putia and the space and who's going to do it. So for us, we're trying to figure out how we can do things on smaller scale within, for our own waste strategies is how we can do it, manage it ourselves until, all the councils there's a space for it. But I mean, I've definitely been whispering in ears to see if that's something that we could do in the future, but don't quote me, Hopes and dreams at the moment.
Any others? Yes, Councillor Trillam.
Cheers, thank you. Thank you for your submission. I'm just referring to the section on climate change in the written submission. One of the comments around how Te Runanga supports projects to address the challenges of climate change and encourages PCC to establish additional initiatives to support iwi climate change mitigation and adaptation. Could you just talk a little bit about what ideally you would like that to look like? What sorts of initiatives would you like to see?
We've currently got an exhibition at Pātaka that outlines a big range of aspirations that we've got for climate change. But one of them would be funding our monitoring that we do on the harbour. Because at the moment we've got to find external funding for us to do that, and we monitor E. coli, microplastics, and we're looking at putting acidification and the effects of heat waves on kaimoana. So we are trying to do these things, but we have to find outsource funding. So that's one simple thing we could do together. Robert?
Yeah, the acidification, I mean, we could protect our kaimoana from waste discharge and that, but then with heating of the seas, you might find actually all that work has been done in vain because you won't be able to eat.
Yeah, and it's the same with the acidification. It compromises the shell, and if the shell's not strong, then the kai's not good. So it's like there's lots of factors that we're trying to look at. So support on that would be fantastic.
All right, thank you. No other questions? Thank you very much for your submission.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Right. Now we have a video submission from Iris.
Maloni, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Very good. So gives us a bit of time for questions, or you can carry on with your full 5 minutes. So away you go. Thank you.
Oh, the people of the land. I thank you for the opportunity to the council for me to submit to support Te Kiwanui submission of economic and social advantage to the Porirua City Council in terms of their long share cultural expertise, exhibit pride in their cultural identity and cultivate strong leadership, change and understanding, promoting social cohesion and harmony within our beautiful Porirua community. By showcasing the rich and diverse cultural diversity in our city, this goes a long way in helping create a more inclusive and tolerant society within Porirua. NCEA credits through the various study, including Pacific, that offers numerous benefits. It is a platform for them to explore and celebrate their cultural heritage. Learning and gaining these credits equips our students in Porirua with the available skills such as critical thinking, enhancing our Porirua student overall academic performance and career prospect. It also helps the student to have a deeper understanding of the society issues, advocating for social justice and contributing positively to their community. It builds our students in Porirua cultural competence and awareness, promoting cross-cultural understanding and respect. Overall, all responsible in leading to be global citizens. It plays a significant role in shaping the well-rounded individual who they are to be equipped to navigate an increasingly diverse and interconnected world. For example, last year's event, Bishop Viard was invited to go down to the Invercargill Cultural Polyfest, one of the largest in the South Island. The skills that the students were learning around project management, planning, logistic, were all part of the life skills and soft skills that they need in life. They represented proudly their school and the city and the community they came from. And if you watch the videos, the applause that they received was huge. In fact, the Porirua City Council, at the heart of our city's strategic framework for children and young people, 2018 and 21, states that family and friends are the most important things to children and young people. School, churches, and sports provide a supportive network for children which they value. The youth who were part of this document told the Porirua City Council those most at risk of not succeeding are the ones without these connection and belonging. The Te Kiwanui strengthens community ties, social networks, and youth connection. The community come together to celebrate, not just on the day, but leading up to it and post to enjoy the performance, activity, and the well-being. Another example is Tokelauan Language Week, where the largest population of Tokelauan young people live here in Porirua. And over the years, we have seen when they do the finale down at the arena, that is well over 300 plus, there is a growing number of non-Tokelauan that are increasingly participating in the cultural activities where they have a sense of belonging. This sense of community spirit can lead to greater social cohesion, reducing youth isolation, enhancing the well-being within our city. The other aspect that is really benefit to the community is the economic side. Leading up to this, and I want to acknowledge that this year, I believe the primary school in Porirua will be participating, which means more businesses.
Zechariah, your 5 minutes is up, so I'm just letting you know that. So if you can...
Business economic is a benefit. Thank you for that. Small businesses, according to the data that we have seen, a number of them are doing the pulatasi, the boys' uniform, the necklaces are all part of the small businesses that are part of the Porirua City Council document in terms of supporting business and thriving businesses. I guess in conclusion, the economic and social benefits of supporting the event are huge. By investing in such an event, the Porirua City Council can not only boost the local economy, but can promote cultural understanding, youth empowerment, and our future leaders. This holistic approach to community development can contribute to more to the vibrant, inclusive, and thriving city that these kids call home. Hakatai lava. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zechariah. Councillors, we've had the opportunity to ask questions yesterday regarding Te Kiwanui, so thank you for reinforcing that information we got yesterday, Zechariah. So that brings us, councillors, to submitter number 326. Last but not least, Ian Gear. If you can come forward, thank you, Ian. You know you've got 5 minutes. Is the green light on? Excellent.
It's even brighter now. Madam Mayor, Councillor Leggett, Councillors, Chief Executive Wendy Walker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. I think you're all familiar with who I am, and you've all read the paper that I've put to Council. So I want to acknowledge, as we start this morning, the various communities that are involved in this city, and we've heard from them this morning, right through to the people who are in Hongaweka and the Kirihana Bay residents in the valley, and my concern sits with them. What I would like to address, and I'm not going to read the paper, I have prepared and put in front of you a one-pager as a draft policy for inclusion in the policy documents, and I did that quite intentionally to help shape the conversation. My concern is quite simple. We have about 18% of the land across the city which contains remnant forests. A little of it contains original forest. We have lost a large amount of forested land in the last 3 or 4 decades. And talking with Rā Paumari about that, he was telling me stories only the other day of when Maui and he used to go over to Whitby and stand in amongst the kanuka and manuka and watch the tuna in the creeks that are there. We have a situation where quite simply, and I can understand fully why Council has entered into following the policy at a higher level from government around SNAs as it stands. But there is a gross iniquity in Council's policy. My property is contiguous with Maori family-owned lands in the Hongaweka Valley, at the head of the valley. And I just use that as an example. Council has a policy about remitting rates up to 100% on unused Maori land. My land is now fettered with an SNA, which is far more draconian than the impacts imposed on Maori land, undeveloped Maori land. I can't do a bloody thing with that piece of land that has been designated SNA, and that's a pity. So I've proposed to you, and I would like to see included in this plan, and if you don't, I will be back continuously. So that's a threat. I'd rather be here about other things. But if need be, I will be back. And I've got a good few decades left in this body. So please think clearly. Go back and read the document if you need to. But understand that this is about doing nothing more than applying natural justice across the city of Porirua. That's all I'm asking. I don't want any more benefits than what those people who are fortunate to own Maori land have, but I at least want to be on an equal footing when it comes to rates. That's all I've got to say. Saved a few minutes, I hope, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
over to you.
It allows questions.
Thank you, sir.
So are there any questions from councillors? The question, the comment and question I wanted to make in is, I think you were here when QV told us that the valuations already took into account the SNAs on private land.
I don't believe that. That's crap.
Yeah, okay. I was just wanting your comment about it. This is...
No, let's. I've had conversations with Kylie and the Mayor about this, and continuously, I might add, when we're catching up every 6 months or so for conversations about the broader things in the community. QV is a system that's way out of whack with the realities of the world. So let's say no more. Don't believe what you've been told.
Okay, yes, Mayor Baker.
Yeah, as frustrated as you, but you realise this is a district plan that has to be changed, that has just been done.
Oh, yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, not asking too much. It's just justice.
Well, except you're asking 1st of March 2024.
Well, that was a figure that was put in when the paper was written back in January, I might add. I met with the Mayor and the Deputy in December, and we had a conversation then.
Okay. No more questions from councillors. Thank you very much, councillors. That brings us to the end of public submissions. I'm now going to move a motion. I was leaping ahead of myself. I'm going to move that we accept all the public submissions that was already moved yesterday. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. To go into public excluded. Very good.